Good afternoon, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Helen, and I'm one of IEEE USA's webinar coordinators. The webinar is being recorded and will be available on our website later in the week. I will also provide you with a copy of the slides. I will email them later today. The presenters are going to ask you to respond to their questions using the chat box and the raise hand feature. You can find the raise hand feature at the bottom of the presentation area. You'll see an icon, the person in a blue shirt. So to respond, click on that icon. And you will also be asked to respond to 3 poll questions, and I will initiate the polls. Our presenters today are George McClure and Peggy Cooper. George McClure is a retired systems engineer with more than 30 years experience at Lockheed Martin. He is a distinguished IEEE Life Fellow, having served many years and in many capacities as a volunteer leader with the IEEE and IEEE USA. McClure is a past IEEE Region 3 Director and a past Governor for the IEEE Vehicular Technology Society, a past Chair of IEEE USA's Communications Committee, and served on several of IEEE US Government Relations Committees. In 1999, he received the IEEE USA Award for Distinguished Engineering Professionalism, known today as the Robert S. Wallach Award. For many years, McClure has served on IEEE USA's Communications Committee as Technology Policy Editor for IEEE USA Today's Engineer, and he has written countless articles for publication in that capacity. In addition, McClure serves on IEEE USA's book editorial board and has authored an IEEE ebook on survivor planning. Our second presenter, Peggy Cooper, is a leadership career coach and has been working with associations and their professional members for a lot of years, helping each member to take care of their future and to be in charge of where their career is going. She has worked in Fortune 100 companies as a hiring manager, international technical societies, and now as a business owner and consultant. Originally from Western Massachusetts, she earned an Rutgers and has done coaching with the work of pioneers in the field of human development. I present to you George McClure.
Thank you, Helen. We can move on to the next slide, the case for business savvy. There is no specific recipe for business savvy. Extra skill and knowledge minimize risk of your becoming a commodity engineer, one who turns the crank to do the immediate job at hand. The URL there is an article from today's engineer that describes commodity engineers. Basically, they use the left half of the brain, the logical half. Yes.
George,
Yes.
Can you move your mouthpiece a little away from your mouth? Move your mouth down.
Okay, I did that. The left brain, left half of the brain is the logical half. The right brain is the creative and intuitive half. And the issue is to make sure you are using as much of your right brain as possible. There is a book that is mentioned in that article by Dan Pink, A Whole New Mind, Why Right-Brainers Will Rule the Future. You should keep a weather eye out for the sustainability of your company, not just looking at the work on your desk. Technology advances can make the business obsolete. One of the examples is U.S. Leather Company. It was one of the major Dow Jones industrial stocks in 1900 when leather belting was used for power transmission and horses required leather reins and horse-drawn buggy whips. But the automobile replaced the buggy, and the electric motor brought power to workstations, eliminating the need for transmission belting. U.S. Leather disappeared in a merger in 1909 and was finally liquidated in 1952. Global telecommunications has become very inexpensive lately, and cheap communications means that many information age activities can be outsourced offshore when there is no other need for customer or marketing contact. This was brought home to me in a field trip through AT&T long lines facility, where I saw they had direct fiber optic links from Central Florida to Malaysia, to India, and to Singapore. Job security comes from workers' intangible qualities that cannot easily be replicated. Intuition to upgrade understanding of the product and the customer's needs, innovation to improve the product, and conceptual thinking to pave the way to new products is the secret for job security. Whether you see things as threats or opportunities is a function of mindset. The idea of SWOT, opportunity, threat, strength, and weakness, is something that can be applied to many different applications. In 1900, automobile engines used magneto ignition, and they had to be turned over so the spark would be generated to burn the gas mixture. This was done with the driver's muscle power using a hand crank that was inserted in the end of the crankshaft. It was hazardous. The engine could backfire and the crank could break the driver's arm. The threat was that women could not operate automobiles. But the opportunity was seen by Charles Kettering, an inventor in Dayton, Ohio, who had electrified the cash register drawers for National Cash Register, eliminating their hand cranks. He saw that a larger electric motor could be coupled to the automobile engine with a mechanism to disengage it after the engine started. He demonstrated the principle and patented the self-starter in 1915. It appeared on the 1916 Cadillac. Kettering formed the Dayton Engineering Laboratory Company, or Delco, which was sold in 1916 to General Motors, where Kettering became the vice president of research. By the 1920s, all cars had self-starters. Beckety?
So the question is, which would motivate you more to expand your business opportunity, your business savvy? Would it be a threat or an opportunity? Why don't you just take a minute to type threat or opportunity in the chat box, and we'll see. Oh, look, it's opportunity. Well, it looks like opportunity is winning. That's great to see, because seeking out new opportunities is definitely part of being business savvy. So when we know what our tendency is, we can at least choose to look at something from a different perspective, something different than we normally would, and perhaps we can see something new. So here's the real test, guys, gals. Which way is this figure turning? If you see her turning clockwise or to the right, raise your hand. Just raise your hand. We'll see how many people see her turning clockwise or to the right. So if you see her turning, I don't see anybody with their hand raised. You see where you raise your hand? It's down to the left-hand side. You click on that little hand raise. Okay, so we've got, so it looks like most of you see this figure turning counterclockwise or to the left. Well, whether this is accurate or not, it doesn't really make any difference, but the point is we all have different perspectives. Some people will see this figure turning clockwise and some will see the figure turning counterclockwise. The truth is, if you want to be valued or recognized for your business savvy in an organization, you have to be able to shift your perspective. You have to be able to zoom in and to zoom out, and to see the details in the context of the big picture. And then to be able to look at the big picture and to understand the objective of the big picture so that you can innovate or add value to it, something a machine or a commodity cannot do. And that's where our right brain and left brain comes into play. You use your right brain, as George explained earlier, to uncover hidden opportunities. The left brain is logical and systematic. It's great at repetitive tasks, at analysis and accuracy, and these are all great things. The right brain is good at pattern analysis, synthesis, aesthetics, and creativity. The left brain may see a problem as a threat to the existing order, and the right brain may see it as an opportunity to add something of value or something through innovation. George?
Yeah. The idea here is that we have to seek out the bigger picture. Tunnel vision would be what an engineer sees when he looks just at the work that's directly on his desk. He doesn't look to see how it fits into what his department does, the marketing his company does, or the world at large. You want to avoid tunnel vision and look beyond that work on your desk. If you are responsible for the supply chain to replace parts that break in the field, the bigger question is, why do they break? What is the root cause? Edwards Deming, an American quality engineer, achieved his greatest fame in Japan, where he helped automakers improve their designs so the parts did not fail prematurely. He pioneered a 14-point program and became known as the god of quality control. Main points were to instill pride in workers to build conforming parts, reducing the need for inspections and rework. He pioneered the use of statistical quality control and the Six Sigma concept, where initial defects were reduced to a level of 3.4 defects per million. Most organizations currently operate at a level of 2,700 defects per million. The cost of defects for most companies is about 20 to 30% of revenue, compared to 1% of revenue for Six Sigma companies. The reasons for an emerging interest in reducing defects are clear, and Six Sigma offers a way to address the issue of quality improvement. Motorola, General Electric, and Ford were among the companies that adopted the Six Sigma philosophy. Ford, as part owner of Mazda, built a factory at Flat Rock, Michigan that embodied the Japanese principle of Kaizen, continuous improvement. The factory floors were kept clean, and the workers were encouraged to pass any ideas they had for improvement of the assembly process up the chain, something not done at General Motors. NASA and the aerospace industry were also early adopters of Six Sigma. And very late news in the press this morning was that Ford now has near record earnings, and it is rated as the #1 U.S. car brand for its fusion, with higher reliability than the Japanese imports. GM is #2 now. Pagati?
So for each of you on the call, business savvy may mean something different. So the real question is, are you using your business savvy, however you define that, to add value? And so I'm going to ask a few questions here. Answer them silently to yourself, but just think about these. Do you know how to contribute to the company's strategies? Are you familiar with their measures of success? Do you understand how the organization can become viable and sustainable? Does business savvy mean that you're not turned off by company politics and you know how to speak to the company's strategic objectives instead of being annoyed by personality quirks? Can you communicate with people that have a different point of view and be effective in finding the common threads? And does your business savvy mean that you understand how the numbers work, how budgets are arrived at? Are you helping the company manage to the bottom line? Are you a profit center or a cost center? Does it mean that you've refined your contract and negotiating skills so that projects are not a series of redos and reworks? Are you aware of how market conditions, government regulations, changing standards, and competitors might be impacting the outlook of the company? And most importantly, are you turned into the customers and clients, whether they're internal customers or external customers, so that you're familiar with what the bigger picture of success looks like to them? For example, and again, it could be internal or external customers, some of them may want to focus on throughput, some on accuracy, and some may want to have some specific innovation. Do you understand their needs well enough to delight them, to give them more than they're looking for, at less than they expected, of course? When you surprise and delight clients or customers in a positive way, they will sing your praises and they will tell everybody they know about it. When you disappoint them, they'll tell their stories to the press or to the social media channels, and soon the world will hear. So, an example of this recently that we've seen, well, in the recent past, is that something that has delighted the customers was the Apple iPad. And and it was a smartphone with features so revolutionary that the first day that it was offered for sale, it sold 300,000 of them. The iPhone sold 1 million in the first 3 months in 2007. And there's another one. George gave me an example of the intermittent windshield wipers. No one went in asking for intermittent windshield wipers, but when they got them, wow. And that was told in the story of the movie Flash of Genius. You may have seen it. So there's also another real nugget to take away here, and that is that all of the answers to these questions do not have to come out of your own brain. You can collaborate with others, you can ask questions, you can listen to the perspectives of others, and you can look at the notion of being business savvy through their eyes. And it's perfectly okay to steal their ideas. George?
Yes, well, the next question is, how do you get a handle on the big picture in your own company? Usually, if the company is publicly traded, it provides annual reports and quarterly reports. Either the employees receive them automatically at their desks, or you can request them through the web. And follow the trade press, what others are saying about your company, potential mergers and acquisitions, triumphs and setbacks. And how about your competitors? Are they gaining in sales? You need to read about the competitors in the trade press too. And market analysts have reviews that go to investors. You can look at the reviews and determine how your company is doing. Not only will it help you in your work, but it will help you in your evaluation of how to handle your 401k plan if you have one. What are the existing markets for your company's products? Are there new markets that could be followed up that are not being addressed now? And what could cause expansion to other markets? Your boss's perception of things, other departments' perception, your customer's view, all of those create the big picture. And be prepared that they help you understand. It may shift the more you engage with others in the questions about the big picture. Of course, like the ostrich in the figure here, you could stick your head in the sand and ignore the big picture, but that could throw you back into the commodity engineer category. Peggy?
All right, so I think we've got a poll up in front of you. So do we have a poll up in front? We've got a poll up here, so just take a minute and tell us, how do you learn about the company's big picture? what do you do to kind of get a handle on what's going on in the big picture in your company? Okay, looks like company meetings is the most prevalent way, or in a close tie now with talking with mates and with teammates and colleagues. All right, great. George?
It goes without saying that it's important to maximize your value. And while you were hired for the skills you had at the time, you do need to keep your skills current. That's essential, almost without a question. It's a given. And you need to keep your manager informed as to what you're doing. Be sure your manager knows your project status, any problems you may have, any successes you have achieved, and most importantly, any customer contacts. Share your knowledge with your peers. Be a good listener and a team player. And as a team player and a leader, give credit to your team. Kitty?
George?
You're right. This one is a good example of diversity, cultural differences, and the value of teamwork. I have some examples here from different companies. The idea is respecting the diverse points of view. Teamwork enables synergism and getting the best results from all team members. Products that are sold globally appreciate the value of inputs from different cultures. At Honeywell, those people contribute to the design of products that are sold worldwide. Volvo uses teams for production in 19 countries, improving quality. They've also been able to come up with safety innovations that have been beneficial to the company. However, culture differences hampered the merger between Chrysler and Daimler-Benz in 1998. The acquisition was $38 billion. While there was some sharing of parts and platforms across the two lines, notably the Chrysler Crossfire was built on a Mercedes chassis, the merger value fell by nearly half. By 2007, Daimler-Chrysler sold Chrysler to Cerberus Capital for $6 billion, considerably less than the $38 billion in the transaction.
So remember we talked earlier about innovation and how important innovation is, and it's really a necessary part of increasing your business savvy. And people have different styles of innovation, and it's, you know, if you want to find out more about your style of innovation, the IEEE site offers a innovation styles assessment. So there are several different styles of innovation. One of them is to develop a vision to meet a new challenge. Another one is to refine and optimize what you already have. That's modifying. Another approach to innovation is exploring, questioning your assumptions and seeing what is possible when you question your assumptions. And experimenting, taking existing elements and combining them in new ways. So when you work with people that have different styles of innovation, you can see that you'll really begin to approach things in new and different ways. Maybe there's something you can do that can innovate, that would address customer needs or customer complaints, a challenge in the marketplace, adaptation of a new technology, or maybe even addressing new government legislation. So if you would take a moment to think about how you could use any of these approaches to interact with another part of the company, just type in the chat box ways in which you've explored innovation. And you can just use those short words if you want, or if you want to be more specific. Just type ideas in the chat box you have about how you could interact with other parts of the company. What do we have here? Okay. So what I'm seeing is, as we scroll down here, is exploring and modifying, brainstorming, questioning, experimenting. All right. George, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Okay. I think you've probably all heard about the silo mentality. That's where you are only concerned with the things that are up and down your direct chain of command. That's not the way to become more visible. So we want to talk about how you can become more visible. Spreading your reputation, talking to people in other areas within your company and also outside the company, in your professional society. One of the things you can do to spread your visibility would be getting involved in setting technical standards or working with technical conferences inside your society. Use your network of contacts effectively, both inside and outside the company. Document your achievements and assignments and accomplishments. The IEEE USA Career Asset Manager is a way to do this, and you see the URL for that at the bottom of the screen. It provides a dozen categories where you can, over your career, record and archive your accomplishments in PDF format. Where are the real gifts you have for solving problems or for providing value to others? How can you leverage opportunities inside your company for brown bag lunches, articles, blog postings, discussion groups, cross-functional innovation teams, becoming a reviewer of papers? There are lots of ways you can do that, and it just takes a little effort on your part. Peggotty?
So, maybe there are obstacles to your becoming more visible, being able to engage in some of these activities which really help you to develop your business savvy or to show other people what business savvy you have. In the book, The Influencers, which was a book about how to solve massive, persistent problems, the authors identified physical proximity as the single greatest influence on whether or not there was collaboration between scientists. They found that by simply moving the desks closer together, there was more collaboration. So you may have an office far removed from others. That would be an obstacle. Or maybe the meetings that you would normally attend are held when you are out of the office, or maybe they're held in a different building. Or maybe there are political obstacles, like, you know, your team isn't included in the development of proposals, or project timelines and deliverables are, you know, it's an impossible delivery. Maybe you have a boss that would never say no to anyone. What are some of the obstacles that you encounter? Why don't you share some of those obstacles in the chat box? So working in an isolated field office, yeah, that would definitely keep you have to make a lot of effort to stay connected to people when you're working in an isolated field office. The technical workload. What else? Working remotely from home. Again, you know, when you're not in close proximity to other people, you really have to take the initiative to institute communication and workload in politics. All right, so why don't you share with us, George, how some people have overcome some of these?
We have an example, or two examples here, for you about innovation and stepping out from safe boundaries. One is Google. Google began as a research project by Larry Page and Sergey Brin, who were both PhD students at Stanford, working on the Stanford Digital Library project, searching for a dissertation theme. Page considered, among other things, exploring the mathematical properties of the World Wide Web, understanding its link structure as a huge graph. He thought that the more things were cited, the more popular they would become, and therefore you could find out how to link them together. Page focused on the problem of finding out which web pages link to a given page, considering the number and nature of backlinks to be valuable information about that page, and that this would have an application in academic publishing. He was soon joined by Sergey Brin, who was a fellow Stanford PhD student supported by a National Science Foundation graduate fellowship. Brin was already a close friend, and Page had first met him in the summer of 1995 in a group of potential new students which Brin had volunteered to show around the campus. Google got initial funding of $100,000 from the co-founder of Sun Microsystems in 1998. In 1999, $25 million was put in by venture capital firms. After its initial public offering in 2004, Google had a market value of $23 billion. A similar but smaller example is YouTube. It had a similar rise. The three founders, Chad Hurley, Steve Chen, and Jawad Karim, started YouTube in February of 2005. They were all former employees of PayPal, and they started the company with an initial investment of $11.5 million from venture capitalists. The company quickly rose to being the de facto video sharing site on the internet, quickly serving millions of videos daily to people all over the world. After just over a year, the video sharing site was sold to Google for $1.65 billion. Peggotty?
So don't think that these were just easy things for these folks to do, because Google had a lot of no's before they had their first yes. All right, so now we're going to step back and observe ourselves. You thought, we're not just going to give you a list of things to do without addressing also the things that might get in the way of developing your business savvy. So we all have different perspectives on things, and sometimes our perspectives have us cut off some things that others might see. So there's a classic experiment, maybe some of you have seen this, on visual processing, which asks people to watch a video of 6 people passing a basketball, and so they tell you to see how many times it passes back and forth between the teams. Invariably, and in the middle of all of that, a woman walks across the background in a gorilla suit. And when asked afterwards, half the people had not seen that. They were looking at the ball passing back and forth, and they just didn't see the woman in the gorilla suit. So knowing how you work and knowing yourself, and where you might have some filters that have you not see things, is an important attribute to have, an important curiosity to have, because people that are really successful have a high level of emotional intelligence, and that gives them the ability to deal with whatever comes along with clarity, confidence, and level-headedness, even if they don't know the answer. So even with things like a bully boss or situations that normally challenge your status or your autonomy, or even your perception of fairness, you can put it in proper perspective when you can step back and observe yourself and the choices that you're making in the moment. So how does this apply to business savvy, you might be asking? Well, business savvy is sometimes unfamiliar territory, and when it's unfamiliar territory, it's going to feel uncomfortable. And something, it's like learning to play a sport or learning to play an instrument. When you first start doing it, you don't do it very well. And once you get beyond the resistance of practicing it, right, because we all like to avoid the practicing, you get a few skills and you begin to practice, and whatever it was that you were resisting now really becomes easy and maybe even second nature. Developing your business savvy skills is the same challenge. Stop resisting what you don't know, get some skills, practice using them, asking questions, searching for a different perspective on what you do, and soon you'll say, oh, I don't know what this thing was that had me concerned about business savvy. So being able to step back from any situation, observe your thoughts, your filters, and your perceptions, and then being able to choose a response which best serves you by being the observer of all that. Now that's really powerful. So we're going to look at a few blind spots that you might have. And we're also going to do a poll on these. So you could put the poll up, Helen, while I'm just speaking to these blind spots, okay? So perhaps you don't see the relevance of business savvy. You might be saying, the business end is not my job. Or you might prefer to work alone. That you don't really want to share information, because if you give information away, well, you sort of give away your power. Or you might say, hey, I don't really see myself as a leader. I see myself as being really good at what I do, and I just want to do that. I don't want to have to be involved in all these other things. Maybe you don't know what the big picture is, and you don't know where to find it. Or you might say, I don't really care about being a team player. I just want to be autonomous. Just leave me alone. So if any of these sound familiar to you, just click on the button. All right, so some people don't see yourself as a leader. Now, we could sort of dig deeper into this. One of the things that I've frequently heard in working with people is, I don't see myself as a leader. I don't like the spotlight to be on myself. I think that it's, I don't want to brag, or I'm an introvert. Some people say I'm an introvert. And, and I have to say, well, I know what it's like to be an introvert because I am an introvert. And sometimes you just have to recognize that introverts really have strengths. They listen really well and they can really relate to people easily. Okay, so if you have some of those blind spots, just being aware of them is really important. And then there are some actions that you can take. George?
Where are we? Here we are. Yes, you do want to seek out the big picture. Look beyond the immediate task. How does it fit? How does it relate to the other things the company has as goals and missions? Be curious and observant of group dynamics. You can often learn a lot by watching the interaction of other people in your group. Credit your team, celebrate their accomplishments. Develop shared expectations with your team so everybody has the same goals and knows what those goals are. Develop yourself as a source that others turn to. Use your strengths to focus on the problem and listen to others. Introverts excel in focusing and listening. So this is a way to turn that into an asset. Take on leadership roles in IEEE. This will help you in interacting with other people and learning to take lead in being a project manager. Understand your company's strategic plan and how the annual report lays out progress toward goals.
So, I'm a coach, and what coaches do is they challenge people to take action. Because what I know is that in about 4 hours, you will have forgotten the bulk of what we covered today unless you make a real conscious effort to use it, to share it with someone else, to teach someone else, or to put it in a place where you can reference it. So the best way to remember is to use it. So here's a poll. This is your opportunity to commit to what you're going to do. Now, nobody's going to know about your commitment but you. So where are you willing to try something new this week? Go through this list of possible actions and do yourself a favor and just make a commitment. And if you get stuck while you're trying to fulfill on that commitment, I think I speak for both George and myself, you're free to contact either of us to clarify anything or to ask questions that might come up. And ask someone you know, share with somebody that you're going to take on this commitment so that, they kind of hold you accountable for doing that. It will increase the likelihood that you actually take the action. Okay, so what do we have people committing to? So we have a number of people that are going to really observe the dynamics of how people interact with each other. And going to develop yourself as a source. Let's, become known as a source of something that you're really interested in. Because, one of the secrets here is if you're a source, it has your network of people that you know go to you. And then you kind of automatically begin to really build these relationships on a much more solid basis. And when somebody says, who's the expert? They say, that guy over there is, or that gal over there. And be familiar with somebody's going to take on, a few people are going to take on becoming familiar with the annual report of the strategic plan. And great. All right, so we don't have anybody willing to take on a leadership role in IEEE, eh? That's sort of just a really, there are lots of ways that you can kind of develop your business savvy by participating in your professional society. So George, why don't you share some of that, what's possible?
Yes, well, one way to look at it, or look at IEEE as a resource, is for all of the technical information. There are 38 technical societies within IEEE, 7 councils, and they have produced prodigious amounts of technical information. There are millions of technical papers archived at IEEE Explorer. There's also publications and standards. The Standards Association works actively to try to create standards, and you can participate as a member of industry in those standards development. We need to go to the second slide here. Here we go. Career development. Those helps include Career Navigator, online communities, and the IEEE job site. And as Peggy pointed out, volunteering for IEEE assignments is risk-free for your company. You can get project experience, management experience, leadership experience in IEEE volunteer assignments at no risk to your employer. So that's the reason why your employer might be interested in having you participate in IEEE activities.
And one of the things that I bring to the table as a coach is I help people really kind of get more insight into themselves. So as a gift to people that are on the call today, the more you know about yourself, the more you know about how you tick, the greater your ability is to really determine your future, not only determine your future, but really control your future. And so there's a 15-minute assessment you can take. It's at the link that you can see on the screen. You will have to provide your contact information so we can email the link back to you, but I promise you that information is only used for doing that. And then to understand what it is, you'll need to set up a 30-minute appointment, and I'll just go over the highlights with you, and you can see how to do that. You can click on that link that gets to my calendar, or you can just email me a time that would be convenient for you. And as I said, the more you know about yourself, the better off you are. So, now it's your turn. What kind of questions or comments do you have? And I think that we're going to open up open it up, aren't we? Or are we not, Helen?
Participants should type their questions in the
Okay.
chat box.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. We're not. So what questions do you have that we haven't answered for you? Okay, so one is, can we get a copy of the presentation? Yes, I think at the beginning Helen said that she was going to be sending it out to all participants in the next few days. Any other questions? Any comments? Any, let's see, I gotta just scroll down for myself. So what's the role you see of social networking in this context? Well, social networking is really great because one of the things that it does is it enables you to kind of keep on the pulse of things. What are people concerned about? What are they talking about? And when you see your area of expertise show up, you just jump in there and share what you have, and you begin to expand your visibility. Now, ultimately, you know, the face-to-face is what's really, or voice-to-voice. So it doesn't, all the connections don't necessarily work, but it's a good beginning to see who knows what, where the expertise is, and then you can have a different kind of, you can follow that up with a different kind of relationship. Okay, so let's see. Here's another question. I missed the beginning of the webinar. Yes, it's all being taped, and Helen will be communicating with everybody about how to go online and hear it. Any other questions? Any observations? Has this been valuable for you? Does it raise other questions? I'm sure somebody's. So here's an interesting question. Let me see. I've got a. So one person asked, "What any tips on finding an appropriate mentor?" Well, it's first of all, you want somebody that you can communicate well, that you can really kind of connect with. So, you know, as you interact with people in your company, you know, you might identify somebody and you could just ask them if you could pick their brain. You don't even have to really create, you know, say, will you be my mentor, but you can just kind of create a relationship so that periodically you can connect with someone. And then at professional meetings, it's a great opportunity to find mentors in your field who are doing what you would like to do. And you can identify them by perhaps they're speakers at a meeting, perhaps they are presenters, perhaps they're there in some sort of capacity. Maybe they're just part of the audience, but you can connect with them there. George, do you have any insight into this? Finding an appropriate mentor?
Yes. Oh, the mentor, I should mention that there is a facility within IEEE to match up mentors with people who are mentees, I think they call them. And that's available through the IEEE website.
So somebody else is asking for any book recommendations. You know, there are so many business books out there. And so because business savvy can mean so many things to many different people, just go to your bookstore and start looking through the business section and see, you know, what resonates with you. So here's another question. What is the role of the voluntary professional in the context of social welfare? Huh, that's an interesting question. No, there is no fee for the 30-minute appointment. It's totally free. I'm happy to talk with you. I love doing this, so it's mine. Gives me an opportunity to do what I love to do best. Okay, to volunteer in IEEE leadership, can I have the right to access all of the resources for free? George? Can you answer that question?
The answer is that it's all free except some of the technical standards and technical papers in Explore do have a fee. However, you will get those for free if you're a member of that group. Well, maybe not the standards, but the papers, because there's costs associated with making the archives. But most facilities within IEEE are free to members.
So I want to go back to the question of what is the role of the voluntary professional in the context of social welfare. And I think that one of the things we're seeing more and more these days is that organizations, even for-profit organizations, are getting involved in some sort of social commitment. And you know, I know that one of the really great organizations that I've seen in action is Engineers Without Borders. And they go and work on projects in countries that can't afford or that don't have access to the kind of engineering skills that we have here. And so you could do it through, you know, any kind of voluntary organization. Maybe your company has some sort of outreach where they want to see they want to have some visibility in community projects. Maybe IEEE has some projects, especially in response to disasters. So all of those, it's really important, and I think just for everybody, it's important to have some part of your life that you dedicate to something that's bigger than yourself. That's my opinion.
I can add to that, Peggy. The Haiti Fund was set up after the earthquake in Haiti, and IEEE contributed considerably to helping the restoration of Haiti. And various funds within the IEEE Foundation have made contributions to Engineers Without Borders to help in the undeveloped countries that you were talking about to improve quality of life there.
And the great thing about being involved in any of those things is you really get to build some really great relationships with people, and you never know where those relationships are going to go. You just never know. So, George, I think you had some a resource that you wanted to share, and this is actually this could be the book recommendation, right?
Yes. Yes, it can. Actually, this one, and I mentioned the Dan Pink book that you would find at that Engineers as Commodities paper in today's Engineer. But this one I wanted to highlight for you comes from a professor of organizational behavior at Stanford University. It's a new book he's got out this year. His name is Jeffrey Pfeffer, P-F-E-F-F-E-R. And he's listed here personal properties that can build power. Now, he's not talking just about engineers, but they apply to engineers as well. Have ambition. Think of the bumblebee. Push for the impossible. According to the laws of aerodynamics, a bumblebee can't fly, but it does. Energy. It takes a lot of energy. Others are willing to work long, hard hours if they see you are doing it too. Focus. You should concentrate on those activities most critical to your effectiveness and success. And self-knowledge. Track your progress, decision-making, meetings, and other interactions to aid personal development. We mentioned the career asset manager. You may want to keep personal diaries to keep track of decision-making. Confidence. Know your goals. Know what you want and deserve. And as Pfeffer mentions, expressing confidence is often harder for women than for men. Empathy with others. You should learn to be good at reading other people, recruiting them to your point of view, finding out what their objections might be, and then trying to work to overcome them. And develop a capacity to tolerate conflict. Don't give in just to avoid a scene if giving in weakens your position. Many companies have had courses in conflict management to help people be more fluent in how they handle conflict. The book is Power, Why Some People Have It and Others Don't, by Jeffrey Pfeffer, Harper Business, 2010.
So I just want to say something about tolerating conflict, because conflict can sometimes be like kind of a, people see it as a nasty word, and really conflict is just a different point of view. And when you can develop the ability to step into somebody else's world and understand why they have that point of view, without, because you don't have to agree with them to do that. All you have to do is, like, listen to them. Then sometimes, you can find the common ground there. And so you just have to recognize that it's not about agreeing with people when you are curious about their point of view. It's just about listening and actually hearing what they're saying. And if we all did that, conflict would be a whole different experience. Well, okay, so that brings us, I think, to our summary. George?
The quick recap just encourages you to take a broader view of your role in the organization, find ways to add value to your customers, to the organization, and to your team each day. Strive to become more visible so that you will be sought out as a source and as a resource for your colleagues. So it's always onward and upward. But let me mention just a couple of other books, because one of the things that was pointed out, we can learn from the mistakes of others. And there is a book called Taken for a Ride, How Daimler-Benz Drove Off with Chrysler, which describes the problems they had in that culture interaction there. And there's another book by the recent auto czar called Overhaul by Steve Ratner. That won't apply to you directly, but it's some organizational insights that you might find very interesting. Peggy, do you have some last comments?
Well, I really just want to thank everybody for being on the call. It was really, we can't explore all these things without you, so I hope that it's been of some value to you, and I really encourage you to take that action and just tolerate being outside of your comfort zone and practice. Just practice it, because it will become second nature at some point in time. So thank you for being on the call, and we'll look forward to hearing about your successes in developing your business savvy. And here's our contact information on the last slide if you want to be in touch with either of us. George, anything?
Thank you a lot for participating. We enjoyed getting your insights through the chat box.
All right, so we'll sign off.
Thank